judiciary, because the question is not what is my ideology. The question is, what will I do if the law contradicts my ideology?
The other side didn't give a hoot. We do so much
Well,
concern over here. They
right.
don't give a hoot, and they blast it everywhere. And we want to know, how come we're losing all the judges?
Well, we're losing all the judges because we're picking and choosing which R's we want to. I have to say, an R is better than a D. If you're worried about how conservative an R is, but I'll tell you, my big issue is, what will a judge do if their personal ideology contradicts the law that should govern the case? And you might like it if the ideology of the court, if the ideology of the judge is something you enjoy. But just wait until you have a judge that doesn't agree with you. You're going to want them to be ruled in by the institution of the judiciary. And I think if you break down the walls of the judiciary when you like what the judge thinks, you have broken the walls of the judiciary for everyone.
So what do you think about, I'm so sorry. You know, and we're a little rough here, so we're just.
That's okay.
Forward. But the current judge that's over domestic relations. Now,
Which one's that?
The gay transvestite or whatever she is. I mean, her values are front and center in every picture.
Mm-hmm.
So, God help me if I'm going before her for anything, because she's going to rule against me for sure, unless I come in with purple hair or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
So
You have just made my point. Because she is so clear on what her views are, you have no faith that she can be independent and impartial. You've made my point.
the appearance,
Right. So the answer is not for Republicans to do the same thing and appear as if we can't be independent and impartial. The answer has always been that Republicans, I remember when I was first appointed by the governor, and this was a big deal. Republicans have always been the judges that come in and say, we are going to do the right thing. We are going to protect the judiciary. We are going to be independent and impartial, right?
Been there how long? I mean, it's not like we're
we're
winning.
We're definitely for y'all, 100%.
Yeah.
Definitely. Pastor Beto has a question.
I'm new to this group, so if this isn't right, just keep going. If you can't give us specific examples of your particular beliefs on particular issues,
Right.
what are those? You know, one of the issues that we have oftentimes as a conservative movement is being able to have the appropriate categories to be able to even understand how to make decisions.
Right.
And we're trying to educate conservative voters. What are some of the categories and discussions and things that you can talk about that are indicators that a Republican judge, other than the big R,
Yeah.
what are some of those things that we should be looking at?
I can tell you that I absolutely think we can talk about the importance of traditional values in family cases involving families and children, especially child abuse and divorce and custody, especially in a world where you might have one parent coming in and saying they want to provide gender-affirming care to a minor and the other parent saying no, right? You need a court with traditional values over that kind of case. And so issues about the border crisis, you want conservative values on those cases. Issues around crime. We've got a DA that's not prosecuting crime. We need a court that's going to hold the DA's feet to the fire and be tough on crime, right? So I think we can be at that level, but when I get to specific issues in cases that might come in front of me, that's the problem. Because what the code says is, if it is going to give a reasonable person a belief on how I would rule on a specific case, that's where I cross the line.
If I could just, and I don't mean it, but just to
Yeah.
push back on one of the things you said, how can you hold the prosecutor's feet to the fire? Like, what if the prosecutor has the leeway on whether to prosecute a crime or not, and that's what he's doing
Yeah.
here, where he, and how do you as a judge affect that?
Well, let me give you an example of the El Paso judge. Did y'all see the news today about the El Paso judge
Yeah.
that once again
With the people
dismissed?
running at the gate,
Yeah. So last month he dismissed about 113 cases, and today he dismissed another 200 of the illegal immigrants that stormed the border. right, and took over the National Guard. So in that situation, the DA is not meeting the deadlines of prosecution. And the answer that the judge is saying is, well, I'm going to dismiss the case if the DA is not doing their job. But what's really happening is the DA doesn't want to prosecute the cases, and so he's missing the deadlines, and now he can blame the judge, right? And so I think
Characterize it as a technicality.
right, right. And it's a way to use the legal system to not prosecute crime, right? So I think the judiciary's role is, in that situation, is to say, what is the most appropriate thing to do? Is it to dismiss the case or hold the DA accountable? So I don't know if I'm answering your question, but there are ways to make sure that a DA does his job. So for example, the legislature, and this is another way to show how crazy the world is right now, the legislature had to pass a law that says DAs have to prosecute crime, right? And if a DA is not prosecuting crime, a lawsuit can be filed against the DA and brought into the court system. And that's another way the judges can hold the feet to the fire, is ruling on that kind of a
When did
case.
that
The last session.
pass? The last session?
Mm-hmm.
Let's all file.
When does it go, when did the law go into effect, or has it?
It's in effect.
It's in effect.
Yeah. In fact, the AG has asked Joe Gonzalez for, to be copied on a bunch of cases that he's not been prosecuting. But what he's done is he's gone to the county commissioners and asked for $1 million to make hard copies of the files. What that allows him to do is to avoid turning over the electronic files, which would include
Yeah,
all the
money's on the
communication.
web. Yeah, got it.
Well, no, what he's avoiding turning over the electronic communication, which is really what the AG needs to see what he's doing and why, right?
Text and emails?
Snail mail.
Yes,
Your last question.
my turn.
Last one.
It's all about you, Joe.
The losses we've had with Republican judges, how much of a factor for that was election fraud? And if significant, what would you as a judge try and do about it?
So I don't know the data, and I don't think anybody does. I think we all kind of know that there's an election integrity issue. In fact, I was in Del Rio last week, and I was told about somebody named Grandma Janie that regularly every year turns in thousands of mail-in ballots, and no one's really done anything about it. So it happens everywhere. The only thing I could do as a judge is preside over election integrity cases. It's up to the DA to do something, and if the DA won't, it's up to the AG to sue the DA for not taking those cases, right?
Does the judge publicize this problem to the public?
What do you mean publicize?
Hold news conference and tell, hey, the district attorney is not doing his job, that's why I as a judge cannot do mine.
Oh, I'm sure. I mean, I think that's probably what the El Paso court should have done, rather than dismiss the case.
Are they both Democrats?
Yeah.
I've had to pay that with that.
Oh, yeah. I'm from El
That's why I
Paso.
thought it was corrupted.
It's
there.
old.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
going back to your grandma, I mean, she's got 1,000 grandchildren, so that's why they turned.
Corey, can you give us Phil, who your two favorite justices are in the Supreme Court? United States Supreme Court.
Only two?
Or top three?
We'll try two.
Well, currently.
I always like Justice Scalia. I don't know if anybody will ever be like Justice Scalia. Right now, it's a weird court. And there's so many new ones that I'm reserving judgment on, because we've had justices that were appointed under a belief of what they were like, and then they were not. So I'm waiting to see what happens with Kavanaugh and Amy. Yeah.
You don't think that Thomas picked up the mantle of Scalia to an extent?
I'm a little upset with Thomas because of the ethical issues, because I think that's one of the things that is causing a problem.
Money and the condos and all that stuff?
Yeah, I think part of the problem with the loss of confidence in the public are things like that. And I think we need